right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is, and right here, right now, we actually have a Detroit, Michigan, Motor City, straight out of the 313 hip-hop pioneer in the building. We got DJ Dunkin Hines of Detroit's Most Wanted right here, right now. How are you doing this evening?
Yeah, man, it's all love. What's going on there, y'all? It's all good.
Man, I gotta say, first and foremost, Duncan, I have been a fan of yourself and Detroit's Most Wanted for years, man. So just being able to talk with you, let alone interview you, man, is such a tremendous honor. So thank you so much for a little bit of your time here this evening.
Oh, no doubt. I appreciate the opportunity, man. It's been years coming, right?
I gotta say, definitely been years coming. I gotta say that.
Absolutely.
But Duncan, I know you're a busy individual, man, so I'm going to dive right into this, man. But I want to take you back to the beginning, man. Where in the mid-1980s, you actually became a member of the pioneering hip-hop group Detroit's Most Wanted. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners the backstory behind this group. And, of course, how did you actually get connected with the other two members originally?
It's funny, man. I was DJing at this club called Club Prima Donna. It used to be the old Studio 74. The old Studio 54 in Detroit, downtown at Cass and Bagley. And Robert Walker, which is my Mossy Ski's partner, and of course, I grew up with Lee. Lee was basically a childhood friend of mine, and we basically, I DJ'd records, and he would come by, and we lived on the same block, so we would get together, man, and do drops. I did like a lot of neighborhood parties, a lot of school functions, stuff like that. And when I got in Club Prima Donna, we started taking it seriously to where he hooked up with Mossy. Mossy was a rapper that was doing some things in the area on his own. And Lee and Mossy kind of hit it off, and then we formulated the group. We came up with the name Death Drive. At that time, it was a collection of DJs and MCs. And everyone had their own thing going on, but I just kind of branded the name Death Drive, and Death Drive was like everybody who did their thing in Detroit under that brand would just kind of make records, and then we actually became a group. Me, Lee, and Mossy became Detroit's Most Wanted. So, we did some records. We did Finkel Strip. We did Say My Words for Wax. We recorded all these records right at the what studio was that? The studio downtown was the we did two studios. We did Sound Suite, which is over on 6 Mile in the neighborhood where we lived in, and then we did also the big recording studio with George Clinton, Earl Clue, all the musical greats downtown, right outside of Woodward. What's the name of that studio? Famous studio right downtown Detroit, but it's no longer there anymore. But a lot of the Stevie Wonder, Earl Clue, Earth, Wind, and Fire, whoever came in town from a major recording aspect came in Detroit and recorded there, downtown Detroit, and we actually formulated the Say My Words for Wax, right, our first single on BPI Records.
And also, you guys were actually one of the very first Detroit hip-hop groups to actually secure a national record deal. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about that. And of course, did you guys actually know at that time, once you actually put that ink to the paper, that you guys were actually doing something no one else has ever done within Motor City?
Well, what happened was we actually was independent. And what we did was Joe Bryant, which was the owner of BPI, at this time, man, like I said, I did a lot of records. I was doing a lot of parties and DJing at Studio 54, and I hooked up with a lot of Detroit rappers, and I was actually, behind the, not the turntable, but behind some of the music. And, so at that particular time, Joe Bryant did the music independently through Bryant Records, and it caught the attention of, was it John Abbey, I think? Yeah, him and his wife. At the time, they created Ichiban Records. Tag Team Whoop, there it is, had got signed at that label at that time, and there were some other notables that was on that label, Ichiban Records, out of Atlanta, and he did a distribution deal with Ichiban. So we wasn't signed directly with Ichiban, we were signed to Bryant Records, and we did a distribution deal with Ichiban, which took it national. We actually, from an independent standpoint, we did a video to one of the singles. What single was that we did? I think it was The Money Is Made. Yeah, The Money Is Made was done, and we was on the box. The jukebox was a huge video network where, at this time you could pay to watch videos. And, we just kind of like blew up the circuit. and a lot of the fan base was organic. You know, people liked the video, and the video kind of blew us up a lot. And that was one of the ways how our record got broken, believe it or not, because it wasn't a lot of radio back in the day. You know, as far as getting radio, we got some mix show, but, you know, it was basically an organic thing from the street. And we was one of the original pioneer groups that came from the street that out of Detroit that got that kind of major airplay from being on video, being visual. And then we got on tours, and we was on Ice Cube tour. And it's funny, I'm going to tell you a quick story. We actually secured a place from the Billboard, the Hot Top 100 R&B and hip-hop, and we came in like at 48. And at that time, Dub C and the Mad Circle was on the tour with Q. So he had his tour with two other groups. It was Dub C and the Mad Circle, and who else was on that tour? I think it was Mac 10 or it was somebody else. I forget who it was. But his three people that he had on his tour, because we didn't really quite understand the business at that time, we just was happy to be in the game. The record kind of did what it did, and it transcended on the charts, the top 100, and we were higher than Dub C the Mad Circle. So we came into Cube's dressing room demanding that we come on before him because, you know, we were a hotter act. But Cube was like, hold on. He broke out his contract and was like, yo, look, you know, he had to show us. It was organic. It was no manager coming to bust our balls. It was just actually Cube himself holding up the contract saying, yo, look, you know, our tour is our tour, and, you know, regardless to what y'all numbers are on Billboard, our tour stays the same. No one breaks that. And he had to show us that in writing because we was all like, you know, we was like, yo, we coming on before you. But that was just a way that we didn't really understand the business at that time. And that's what really made me get really seriously in contracts and start really identifying the industry, knowing about the business. And it wasn't just about being popular. It wasn't about just having a hot record or having people know about you. It's about actually understanding the business and knowing that, you know, it's about the contract. It's about what's signed and how it's laid out. And you had to know your business. You just couldn't look at it from a perspective of, you know, financially we were right. We were hotter than them. We were supposed to perform in front of him. But no, the way he had it, he was smart enough to have his contract done up to where whoever was on his tour, not add-ons, but people who was on his tour, you can't break up in it. And it's going to be produced the way it's going to be produced. So I thought I'd just share that because that was a story that never goes away during our success, rising to the top. So
I gotta say, though, it definitely sounds like Ice Cube, though, pulling out the contract. You know what I mean? He was definitely one of those guys that was definitely on his stuff 110%.
Absolutely. He was like, who are these guys making all this ruckus about, you know, in the dressing room? And it was funny. But, yeah, I just thought I'd mention that, man, because that was one of those pioneering moments that I'll never forget as, you know, it was a deal breaker for me in terms of really understanding the business and knowing that, you know, you can't have it your way because technically we had a right to say that, but we didn't know that he had it in his liner notes in his contract that the way his setup was with his production of the show and the way he was doing things. And that just goes to show you, even at that level, that deep in the game, you know, that he was really, you know, fortunate to be who he is as a real pioneer and a legend in the game himself. So, you know, him being in the game to understand that, you know, it's about the principles of the business and being on top of your business. That says a lot today with a lot of artists. So artists, if you're listening, get into your contracts, understand your business, understand your publishing, understand your rights, and get to the bag the real way. It ain't just looking good on TV and on videos. It's about really making money in the industry. So.
And when you mentioned video just a few moments ago, in 1992, one of the singles for your guys' second album, Tricks of the Trade Volume 2, The Money Is Made, you guys actually were the first individuals to actually shoot a hip-hop video actually in Atlantic City in a casino. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a bit more about that. And of course, what made you guys decide to go to Atlantic City and actually film the music video in a casino?
So what happened was, you know, The Money Is Made. Monty, you know, this guy is a real creative and colorful guy in terms of, you know, being very expressatory, you know. self-expression of the money and talking about the money is made, the topic of the money is made was kind of like, at this time we had a lot of partners and people that was behind us from the street, and they wanted to see us win. So the money was already made. So we wasn't trying to implement making the music to make the money. Like I said, we were in the game of loving to make the music. So by being from the street, and we had the pioneers in the street backing, we pretty much just wanted to just let everybody know that the money was made. It was already made. So we were one of the first groups out of Detroit to wear Rolex watches and, talk about the stuff that they're talking about now in records that, they wasn't doing in hip hop. You know what I mean? Wearing suits and carrying briefcases, and at that level, that in the '90s, it just wasn't happening. So anyway, we went to Taj Mahal because that's Donald Trump. Donald Trump actually backed the Taj Mahal at that time. They signed off on it. They allowed us to come in. We was actually gambling out there, and we threw in the mix of shooting the video. So once they approved it, they gave us gambler junkets at the time, and gambler junkets would allow us to spend a certain amount of money in out there at Taj Mahal. So Taj Mahal signed off on it. We went in there and shot the video in front of Taj Mahal. We shot all out there in the water, out there in the ocean, Atlantic Ocean. I mean, it was a real experience. And for guys from the street to be able to have that kind of consideration, we didn't realize how big it would be, knowing that we was the first to do it. And no one has done it ever since we've done it. But it was just one of those things that it was approved to allow us to be able to gamble. We spent money. We shot our video. We had our video written off where we were able to use the branding. That's why we didn't get sued. So we dotted our I's across our T's, man. So that's what it was about at that time. And, we just wanted to be one of the first, groups to be able to do that. And actually, a lot of people don't know, even in the bank scene, we were in a real bank. That wasn't a stage prop. That was an actual bank that was in Detroit. And we did those cutaways in Detroit at a bank downtown that basically was right downtown off Woodward. And we actually went into the actual safe, and we were shooting with the money bags and everything. So that was a real situation in Detroit at that time, where we shot that part, cutaways at a different location in Detroit in a bank safe. So, yeah, man, those were some days. We did a lot, in those 90s.
And also as well, yourself and fellow Detroit's Most Wanted member, MC Lee, actually went on to form the hip-hop duo Ditch Diggers, where you guys actually signed with MC Hammer. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a story behind this opportunity. And of course, what was it like just being able to work alongside, the legendary MC Hammer?
So basically what happened at this time was Hammer signed my brother and myself. I actually was doing some production with a company called We Three Productions, and We Three Productions wanted to, they wanted to get these kids signed that I was producing called HBI, Harsh But Intelligent. So at that particular time, I was going back and forth. I didn't try to get Most Wanted signed at the time because I was actually tied up in a contract with Brian Records, and in order for me to be able to have the arm and the room to be able to do what I needed to do from a national standpoint, I had to sign off all my rights to Joe Brian. So I signed off all my rights of Detroit's Most Wanted at that time, all those records, the publishing, everything, so I can be free and make national records, with MC Hammer. We actually did that, and I was released from my contract, and all my, at the time, I released his masters. I signed off those masters to Joe Bryant. I felt like that was a smart thing to do at that particular time of my career. Of course, once I started producing those records for Ditch Diggers, I put Lee from Detroit's Most Wanted with a guy named Shortstop, which is my first cousin. And they hung out a lot. Shortstop wasn't even a rapper, but he wanted to do something, and we created this idea. And Hammer ended up, well, actually, it wasn't, the thing with the Hammer was Craig Brooks. He actually died of COVID last year, rest his soul. He was partnered with MC Hammer with Road With It Entertainment, and Hammer actually came up with the idea from what we did with the Ditch Diggers, Do Your Thing, is actually on YouTube. You can guys pull it up and check it out. He actually took that concept from us and did Pump to the Bump. Hammer would sign a lot of people to his label back in the day, and that's how he came up with a lot of his ideas. Of course, you got to understand, as a writer, you get writer's block. You can't write a lot of stuff. So when you have a lot of creatives around you, you have the idea to release the music, but then he would put people on pause, and that's why Ditch Diggers never came out. Ditch Diggers never came out because Hammer stole Pumps in the Bump. He actually created Pumps in the Bump. He stole the concept from the Ditch Diggers, Do Your Thing. Craig Brooks was Hammer's partner at that time, and Hammer was supposed to release it. They released it down and did a test at the Jack the Rapper. I don't know if you're familiar with the Jack the Rapper. Back in the late 80s, Jack the Rapper had a huge music convention that would be in Atlanta, and anybody who would get broke, even Criss Cross came out through Jack the Rapper. That's how Jermaine Dupri got Criss Cross out. They used to walk around with their clothes on backwards. He broke them down there. So anybody who was premiered at Jack the Rapper, would get an inside scoop to know whether or not if people were feeling it or not. So they test the video and release it on a huge video screen that they were having at their hotel at the Jack the Rapper. And everybody just ran to the screen and was like, yo, who is this? This shit is hot, So we had high expectations. This Diggers, the group that we created, was, ready to come out. We were ready to do the thing. Everyone was like inviting for the music to hit the scene, but Hammer put a pause on it and dropped Pump to the Bump. We were in the video and everything. That's how we were managed to be in the video. But again, we didn't think nothing of it. We didn't think that wasn't going to happen, but basically that's what happened. Pump the Bump came out and stole the whole concept from behind Ditch Diggers, Do Your Thing. A lot of people don't know that.
And also as well, before we move off the topic of MC Hammer, I actually noticed as well that you were actually featured on his 1994 album, The Funky Headhunter, and I believe we were just speaking about this, but I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a bit more about that album, and of course, just actually being in the studio working on this particular project.
Yeah, so at this particular time, we were staff producers, my brother and I. We produced a lot of records, and not understanding really what Hammer's goal was. Hammer had these staff producers just making music. So when he goes and you would turn in these tapes, back in the day, that's what it was. We would turn in our CDs and tapes of all the music that we would produce, and he would listen to them. So he would get ideas from it. But we thought it was him just wanting the catalog to be able to say, okay, I'm going to make this song for my album or whatever. So anyway, what happened was The Funky Headhunter was a song, a hip-hop record that we produced, which was the title track of the album. That's why the name of the album was called Funky Headhunter. When he decided to go to Giant, Cassandra Mills was the CEO and chairman of Giant Records at that time, which was distributed through Warner Brothers, did a deal for $5 million for Hammer to drop that album. And when he got that deal money, he dropped the album. Of course, Teddy Riley was on that record. We did Pump to the Bump together. We did Something for the OG. I mean, it was a lot of records that didn't make the album, but we had 3 records that made the album, and Funky Headhunter was the title track of the album. And the record actually was a second gold album that I did, that we actually produced that from a hip-hop standpoint that was certified gold that would end up going platinum. But Giant Records had a situation where, because they advanced so much money to MC Hammer for that album, they felt like over the time they didn't want to stamp the plaque. So we called up the IAAA to get the official plaques, and they wasn't printing them. So, we never could get those plaques in from the album. But it's a lot of things that happened back in that deal that they wasn't happy about at Warner Brothers that allowed us to kind of like get that experience, producer Ralph Transvan, Brett Michaels, all different types of artists all over L.A. and the world, man. We had a lot of soundtrack and background music on the Alan X music compilation, a lot of the TV shows, the music licensing division that we was a part of. We were able to just get music out from that MC Hammer situation. So, again, of course, I'm talking about the Funky Headhunter, but being a part of it, I opened up so many other doors. So any artist that's listening, whatever placements that you get, if you got a placement on something that you get from a national artist standpoint, work like hell. Position more work around that work at that time, because the benefit of it is when your name is popping, you can get more placement when your name is hot. If you allow yourself to slow down, you allow your catalog to slow down, then it's hard to build that back up again. That's why you hear a lot of the production or producers who are hot at the time, they go hard and they produce records for everybody they can because their name is popping. But once, you let that time pass by, it's hard trying to prove yourself to get back in the circuit because the industry don't wait for nobody. So.
And also as well there, Hines, I know you mentioned a few moments ago about Bret Michaels, and that was actually my next question, man, that in 1998, you actually were featured on on Bret Michaels' album, A Letter from Death Row, on the song Sounds of Sex. I was wondering if you can actually tell us there's a story behind this, and of course, you being, a hip-hop artist and DJ, what was it like actually being featured on, like, one of the biggest individuals within, 80s rock and roll, and just working alongside Bret Michaels of Poison?
I know, right? That's crazy. So I kind of give this credibility to my brother, because my brother was doing a lot of work with Alan Ett. Alan Ett was, Jim Faraci was the rep who my brother used to hang out. We used to go have dinner at Peninsula all the time in L.A., and, we sat up and we met with Jim, and Jim, he was really charismatic. He thought that we had a lot of different diverse music, and he wanted to do a licensing deal. So we was like, okay, what do we do? So he wanted us to deliver some tracks. We delivered some tracks. They wanted to position the tracks. We did a partnership on the Alamet Music Group where they do these licensing placements to movie soundtracks all over the world, internationally as well as domestic, And so when Bret came along, Bret was a good friend of Alan. Alan brought Bret into the studio, and he was like, he was doing this movie with Charlie Sheen, and it was a it was a Warner Brothers film. It was a big film through Warner Brothers, independently done by them, and, Bret, it's funny, man, Bret told us the whole story with, what's the girl, Pamela Lee Anderson and everything. He was with her before time. And, he gave us the whole backdrop with that, and, we hit it off. So we ended up recording it in our studio, by the way. And if you could Google it, you'll see this out there. And, it was one of those records that, by him being with, Poison, being one of the lead singer, I think, Bret Michaels. Bret did a lot of stuff before the TV show. He was with Ricky Rouse, and they came over, they slayed the track, and, I actually did some voiceovers and raps and did all kinds of stuff on the record for him. And it was just an experience, man. It was just something that, you never can dream of, working with somebody like that. Poison, they sold millions and millions of records, so they're a huge group, you know what I mean? So to be able to work with him and have some ideas and be buddies with someone on that level is blessed, truly.
And was that the only time you had the opportunity to work alongside Bret Michaels, or did you have other opportunities throughout your guys' career as well?
Well, we had other opportunities to work with them. Like when he come by the studio, and my brother, he would do a lot of work with Bret outside of that one particular song. But that's the real time I ever actually wrote and actually played and worked with him on a record. You know what I mean? It was that particular record. That was the only time that we actually recorded and played a record together. But there's been times we actually hung out, just talking and hanging out. And with Bret Michaels at Jim Faraci's studio and stuff like that. But that was the time that we actually put some work in. Absolutely.
And also, jumping ahead of the timeline a little bit, in 2004, Detroit's Most Wanted actually reformed and got back together. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners the story behind this reunion, and of course, what actually made you guys decide to come together and be a group again after all those years?
Well, that was a bad time for me because Moxie actually carried the group over, because I told you I walked away so I can be able to produce music on a national level for different artists. So I actually didn't have any legalities with Detroit's Most Wanted, and we couldn't come to terms. So Moxie actually released that album with some notables that he felt comfortable bringing in to utilize, and a lot of people thought it was the original group, and it wasn't. I just didn't blow up the spot because at that time I was in a comfort zone. And I felt like as as an artist, Matthew as an artist, he wanted to express himself, and he wanted to have the right to push the group forward. And at that time, even though I wasn't a part of it, I didn't want to step in the way of that, and I wanted him to be able to do what he needed to do to push the brand and still be able to creatively do Detroit's Most Wanted. So what they did was they did like a greatest hits album and did a double CD release after that because it wasn't an authentic Detroit's Most Wanted album. Once the distributors found out that it wasn't a it wasn't the same thing. And I guess once the word got out that it wasn't the uniqueness of the trio, it just didn't get the numbers that it needed to get, and that's why they decided to do a double CD, of the greatest hits record.
And also, as well, on November 14th of 2012, Detroit's Most Wanted actually performed at the Detroit Old School Legends of Hip Hop reunion alongside individuals like Awesome Dre, Dice, and dozens of others. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about that night, and of course, what was it like being surrounded by other fellow Detroit hip hop legends just like yourselves?
Oh man, it's a great thing. I mean, I actually didn't expect to perform. I showed up because I wanted to show some homage. I didn't think that it was a situation where they really wanted us to perform. It was said to me as if it was just one of those things, and I think the guys just got me in just to tell me that. I came in with the expectations of just basically supporting and showing up and showing my face, but once everybody was like, come on, man, let's do a record, let's do a song. So we end up getting up there, man, and we supported it. But, like you said, in terms of other rappers, it's always like brotherhood, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of the guys at that particular time, either I worked with them, I was friends with them, and either I produced a record for them. So, I mean, it was always some type of creative juices flowing whenever I'm, with any of the guys. Any of the guys I wasn't, it was always love because we all were trying to be on the same page in terms of supporting Detroit culture. So.
And also, as well, I actually read that Detroit's Most Wanted planned to actually release a new album titled Timeless, but as of 2019, the album actually never came out. And I've actually had a lot of individuals actually ask me this since, I was going to be interviewing you. They wanted me to ask, will the world ever get the opportunity to hear this legendary project in the future? Like, is Timeless still an actual thing that's happening?
I think it's something that depends on the guys. You know what I mean? I get calls from Lee all the time. Lee always, he's still in the city. So, being at this close to the ear, to the streets, he knows the capacity of what it would take to make it happen. And I think with Motsy, I haven't spoken with him in a while, but I know he's always keeping his ear to the street and also keeping creative with different things. And I just think that, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like in order to get a real Detroit Most Wanted project, we just have to be in a room long enough to establish, some chemistry to get some records. And I think the magic always come together when we get together because a lot of times one of the last times we were together, I was playing some tracks that I thought might be kind of unique for our sound. And, the guys was gravitating to it, but then, we all got, families, everybody's got their own thing going. So, we live in different areas, different states. I know Mossy was at the time was in Atlanta, Lee was out of Detroit, and then, I was in the Carolinas. So at that time, we was moving around and everybody's moving. So like I said, I think it's something that can happen. I wouldn't rule it out 100%. I think the music is in our veins. The blood is, especially when it comes to the lyrics of it. When it comes to Lee and Steve, I think it just really depends on them. And, from a music standpoint, I just have to get with them and see what works. I know they can go in the studio and make their own music, but I think in order to make that magic happen with Detroit's Most Wanted, it has to be a collective effort from all of us to generate that sound and to give the people what they really want in terms of it being that kind of magnitude. And I just think that's just what it takes.
And also, aside from the hip-hop community here for a moment, I also know as well that you actually have your own business as well by the name of Hines Janitorial Services. For the listeners that are actually listening that, either have another business that needs cleaning or anything like that, Can you tell us a bit more about how they can actually book, hip hop pioneer Dunkin Hines actually to, clean their facilities?
Hey, it's funny. I wasn't expecting you to dig deep like that on me, but let me tell you. I mean, as a kid, man, I always understood business. And I think when you talk about, the music side of things, we always still, diversifying from management, from music production, from even media. We have our hands with the Lander Agency. So, I'm not out of tune with that. I'm still very much in the game in terms of, the experience, the way to now with the streaming and how the money is being made in the industry. So, to get off that, to get into the janitorial side of things, that was just something that I wanted to have as far as a lucrative business that happened for my for my grands. You know what I mean? This is just something I wanted to do because, of course, when the pandemic came along, it should be a thing that we practice every day in terms of cleanliness and, making sure that, we do touch spots and touch areas and making sure we wash our hands and making sure we sanitize. So that became such an all-time high. And when you're talking about in the commercial cleaning aspect, not cleaning homes, but cleaning actual businesses, that was something that, we didn't take lightly. And we was able to help get people feeling comfortable to get back in the workplace. And, like I said, man, we just grown a brand and, because it's Hines, we formulated the business aspect behind it. Created great relationships, created, trusting relationships with people who respect, what it needs to be done so they can feel comfortable about getting back in the workplace as well as, feeling comfortable to be able to move around in the workplace, having clean buildings, clean relationships, having very easy conversations in terms of being trusted and being able to, to have things getting done and they know that it's going to get done. So, I mean, it's just a blessing, man. We've been 3.5 years strong. We just had our 3-year anniversary, and it's just going nothing but up, man. So we keep our prayers going, and we want to keep everybody in the workplace, and we want to continue to keep, spreading our brand around. You know what I mean?
Hey, I got to say, I love touching base on everything, and I know you got a phenomenal business. So if we can actually put that in the limelight and help you generate more, man, that's my plan. To make individuals learn more about Dunkin Hines.
Definitely, man. We're looking to open more franchise opportunities. So anyone that's listening that's very in tune with, want to set up their own franchise, we can help show you how to and grow your business as well. And you can check us out on HinesJanitorial.com, which is the website, and all our information is on that website as well. So.
But also, I have to ask, man, what is next for yourself, Dunkin Hines, man? Is there anything we happen to miss during this interview this evening? Anything else you do still want to talk about or promote? What we still got you here live on 97.7 FM this evening?
I mean, man, just pretty much, man, as far as the promotion aspect, marketing aspect, we up on Instagram, one of my pages had got hacked during the pandemic. My major page, I had over close to 50,000 followers on that particular page, and it got hacked. So anybody who's following that page on that Cake Mix page, of course, the Lander Agency page is the page to follow. I'm not really heavily on it like that anymore, but I am on it at the Lander Agency. We're based out of Los Angeles, and we have peaks and valleys of satellite offices in North Carolina, in the Carolinas, and then, of course, out of Detroit. So Detroit, Carolinas, and then L.A. So check us out, the Lander Agency. And then also, like I said, with projects and music, we still got a lot of licensing going on right now in television and film. My brother's heavily, my brother's always been my partner. He's, and that's a whole nother conversation with Andre Hines. So, he's doing a lot. He's doing a lot with the business as well. He's doing a lot independently in the film game. So just keep checking for us, man. We got a lot of stuff bubbling right now. He's got a lot of things in the investment side. He has Series 7, so he's doing a lot of stuff, man, and on the West Coast and with partners on the West Coast. So just keep us on the curve, man, and I'll make sure I keep posting on our page as well for any development.
And also, as well, this is the time to interview quickly Dunkin Hines, and I give a chance for the individual that does slide into the radio station airwaves, just a chance to give like shoutouts to whomever they want to give shoutouts to. But most of all, I do know like a few moments ago you gave your Instagram handle away, but I was wondering as well if you can actually give all your social media handles. That way, our listeners can follow yourself and everything you currently got going on all across the board.
So yeah, of course, we have both pages on Instagram, which is Hines Janitorial on Instagram. You can check out, some of the stuff with the contractors as well, accounts that we have there on Instagram, and then you have the Lander Agency, which is the page privately, that we operate as well on that page. And then on Facebook, you can follow under Dunkin Hines. And let's see what else. Oh, on TikTok under Dunkin Hines, DUNKIN Hines. And that's pretty much it, man. Of course, Hines Janitorial is the website as far as, the industrial commercial cleaning side of things with that business. And like I said, you can Google and check out all the stuff that we got online from the past to most recent. Once you Google any of the, Dunkin Hines, Carolina Promoter, all that stuff that's still online that we've actually helped build it in the market down here in the Carolinas as well as Los Angeles. So.
And I got to say, first and foremost, Duncan, thank you so much, man, for just giving us a bit of your time here this evening and sliding into the 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM dial, man. It was such an honor and definitely a privilege, man. And of course, thank you as well for years of monumental music, man. Without your touch, man, who knows how these projects would have turned out, man? Because not only are you a phenomenal artist and DJ, but you're a very talented and phenomenal producer at that.
Hey, man, look, I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate those sound words of yours, man. And, I'm humbled. I'm humbled, man. And, as the years grow on, we just want to keep inspiring the newer youth, the newer opportunities for them to be able to grow and learn. And, if it matters to them. But, it matters to a lot of us that knows that, what happened in the past. And it's good to go back and reminisce on those days, man. I appreciate you for having us tonight.
Hey, man, I appreciate you as well, Duncan. Thank you so much, and definitely have yourself a phenomenal night. I'm pretty sure down the line we definitely shall talk again soon.
I look forward to it, all right? Thank you, man. Y'all have a good night.